and I won't get it 100% accurate, but he said over time, over several generations, you will have men thinking they're women. I mean, it's eerie to listen to it. Men thinking they're women, women thinking they're men. As much as the sky is blue, then you will have people arguing whether it is.
Man.
They won't know what's right from wrong. Fast forward, multiple decades, we're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's 100% what's happening
Totally.
right now.
Yep.
So anyways, that was scary. I encourage you guys to watch it. Maybe we can drop the link to that leaked audio below so that you guys can listen to this conversation, because it's very alarming. But there's a bright side to it. You do have people like her.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
And she's a Trumper. And this same institution that is bribing her is also trying to stop Trump from getting elected too.
For sure.
And for me, my good senses tell me that, hey, if the elite and parties that be don't want this person, I don't trust them. This is how much I trust them. That's probably my pick.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to go the opposite direction.
Yep.
Right? It's like, hey, back in 2020, you really sat in two camps.
Yeah.
Vaccinated or not vaccinated. And if you weren't vaccinated, then you were a racist and all this.
Golly,
and look,
that was crazy.
Who came out warp speed with the vaccine was Trump. I get it. You don't know what you don't know, but now we know. It's like, don't sit like we already had all the science and all the evidence that this vaccine is going to prevent you from getting COVID. Now what do we know? You can actually get COVID. You can actually pass on COVID. Now we're starting to get all these random myocarditis issues from athletes and everybody else just dropping dead, and they also just happen to be vaccinated. But we're not going to draw the link between those two, because what's part of the establishment? Big pharma. Yep. I mean, they're pumping lots of dollars in there. So, in my opinion, I need to flee towards people like a Carrie Lake, maybe a Donald Trump. I don't have issues with Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
There are some policies that he has, and I'm like, yeah, you're definitely a Democrat.
Yeah.
And it's just, some people just don't have that real world experience to, like, hey, here's an example. Let's tax the rich. You're not going to get there. You are just not going to get there by taxing the rich more. They're going to flee to Puerto Rico. They're going to move their corporations to Ireland and all this other tax havens.
Sure, yeah.
They're not going to employ people. They're going to figure out ways to either pass on that tax burden to someone else, their employees, or to the end consumer, which just means what? What do you do with inflation? Like, for instance, if you were to tax me more, then what am I going to do? I'm going to have no other choice but to increase the prices of the products that I give to consumers. So that, by default, is that not inflation? You forced me to drive up the price of my products to my consumers.
Yeah.
So who really paid that tax? Not me.
Right.
The end consumer.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if you took, all the wealthiest people in this country and taxed them more, you are still not going to tackle $34 trillion.
Oh, yeah, no. That's a whole different beast altogether.
What you need to do is make more people prosperous and broaden the tax base. Instead of having all these loopholes where, this population doesn't have to pay any taxes at all. How about we lift them up, get them a higher income, not get them higher income through efforts of their own, education, financial literacy, getting more skills. You talk about the parables of the talents and why Jesus gave one man 3, another one 2, and another one 1. Was the man that got 3 had better skills, right? And therefore he was good with his resources. That's what we need to do. And you get more people, the middle class, built up stronger. You broaden the tax base.
For sure.
And that's how you solve the problem. Not overnight. I don't know that you solve it at all at this point. So
what would, and I was going to joke. I was like, but Michael, that's being selfless. It's like, there's not much of that going around right now. Obviously I completely agree with you, but maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but what would you say, what's an easy way to do that? Maybe not an easy way, but like, what does that look like? Do you have it, is there any tangible?
Yeah, I've been a fan of the flat tax or fair tax. You look at, I was going to say countries. It might as well be one. California. Or New York. I get it, they're states, but almost like, Communist Republic of California, New York.
Yep.
All right, so California, and if I'm remembering these numbers correctly, and you guys can comment below if I get these numbers wrong, but I think they're $36 billion deficit, right? However, you look at like Texas. California, lots of taxes. Okay, they're even trying to tax people that move away. Yeah, so there was this legislation.
You ain't
where,
getting away from us.
Yeah, if you were a resident of California and you moved away, they have 10 years to claw back income taxes that you didn't pay because you moved away. Yes, I don't think it passed, but that was an effort.
That was a try,
right? Because they have so many people that were leaving California. I mean, you look at Middle Tennessee. We're becoming more and more like California. Hopefully we're getting all the good ones and not the bad ones. But people are fleeing that state because of the oppressive taxation and just what's going on in those big cities like LA, San Francisco, just having crap and homelessness on the streets, right?
Bad, yeah.
But they're capable of cleaning it up anytime the Communist Party of China comes into town. They'll clean it up overnight. You didn't see them anywhere. So where the hell did you put them? Why didn't you put them there to begin with?
Right.
But their $36 billion deficit, right? One state, New York, is up there too. Highest tax states, Illinois, et cetera, deficits. Then you look at states like Tennessee, Texas. I think Texas has a $26 billion surplus and they don't have an income tax.
Dang.
Are there lessons there that we could learn and implement nationally to help out California?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
If they could be saved, New York and Illinois. So the fair tax is, all right, you've got a lot of people that we're giving subsidies to and they're not paying taxes at the middle to lower end, et cetera. And maybe it's a consumption tax. So everything you buy is 15%.
Yeah.
So if I buy a Rolls Royce, my 15% is going to cost me a lot more than your toothbrush.
Sure.
Right? And I'm not in a position to buy a Rolls Royce or anything. I'm not demeaning people that can only buy a toothbrush.
Right.
I'm just saying it's almost like from a consumption standpoint. Rich people consume more things.
Right.
And more expensive things. Okay. So you need to broaden it out and really close. I hate to call it loopholes, but there's so many people. I mean, I had a buddy that worked for years and not making gangster money, less than six figures, but didn't pay any taxes. And I'm not saying 20 grand a year.
Right.
I'm saying 80, 90, had kids, whatnot.
Yeah.
Got a tax refund.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't pay taxes. You didn't even pay in, and somehow you still got a tax refund.
Right.
Right? So that's an issue. I think Social Security is a massive issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what a person could do with their own financial literacy that we don't have in our educational system today, which is why we have institutions like Replace University.
100%, yeah.
So you're going to force me to pay into this system that is not going to give me a rate of return because it won't even be around.
Yeah, no joke.
But what is the government doing to get a rate of return on that money? They're not. They're not. It's a subsidy where if you take that away, right? And I don't say take it away, but just say, okay, give people the option that they are not forced to pay into Social Security. So if you don't pay into Social Security, then guess what? You don't get paid Social Security. And that's somewhat the case now. Well, as an employer, I'm forced, right? I'm forced to pay in for something that is not going to be there when it's time for me to collect on it. But it gives people the options like, hey, you don't have to pay into this if you don't. If you don't, then you're not going to get this, $500 a month of tax-free money when you're 62 years old. Instead, if you want to put it in the S&P 500. Now, I read an article where if you took the same amount of money, somebody making $80,000 a year, instead of paying into Social Security, they would just put it in S&P 500 blindly. Just that. Boy, would it way outpace. It was like a difference of
that's crazy.
40,000 in income versus 1.4 million portfolio size. Now, that's not income per year. That's a portfolio size. But now you've got, let's say you're getting 8% on that. You're making over $100,000 a year in interest on your money, not accounting for inflation and all that.
Sure.
Is that not a better use of those funds?
Totally. Yeah, and I think listening to you talk, it reminds me of and I even past what we were talking about earlier with just all the corruption and it's like, how do we change this? And it's so often we look at I'm going to vote for the president. And it's that's a high level. Sure, yes, absolutely vote for the president and do your research. But vote locally. Vote, like it boils it down to state and local levels of that's where we can really have a voice, and that will ripple effect. I know that we live in a society, this microwave, we want to see it change right now. We didn't get here overnight.
No.
We're not going to get out of this overnight,
Correct.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
And so we do have to take a look at and do the work, do the due diligence. There's going to come a point where, and we're all feeling it, the pain and the fear and all that type of stuff. And how much more does it have to get to where we finally say, you know what, I'm going to get involved. And maybe it's not going and being a part of your school board. We've got an employee who is part of his school board. In fact, that's a great example of someone voted him in, and he told me the other day, he was like, man, I'm so excited what we're doing for these kids. Like, we're going to be providing in the public space, private level amenities. And he kind of told me a little bit about it, but like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's game changing.
Game changing. And so just, it's
do what you can is what you
do what you can.
And control what you can control, and all the other stuff is just noise. And having said that, something else I want to talk to you about, because as salespeople, we tend to be emotional. Sometimes too emotional. And there's, this thing out there called emotional intelligence. And some have it and some don't.
Yep.
Right?
Very true.
I don't know that it's a good thing. It's like, my wife's side of the family, I've jokingly said to you, it's like you can tell if something good has happened in their life because they are shitting rainbows coming in and riding on a unicorn, right? And it's like almost to the point that it's like annoying. It's like, you're so happy, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, you're weird right now. Just stop it. And then it's the opposite, though, that if something minor happens, they're Eeyore.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing you can say that would cheer them up.
Sure.
There is no even keel there. And there's pros and cons to that, because I've always somewhat prided myself on being even keel, that if I won the lottery, you're probably not going to know.
Yeah.
One, I'm going to conceal it. It's going to be in a blind trust. So there's that, and I'm not going to be the one out bragging about it. But even if you were inside of my inner circle, like my family, I ain't gonna lie, there's gonna be some levity there.
Sure.
There's gonna be some stresses.
We'll know when the Rolls Royce appears.
Nah, I'm not that kind of guy.
I know you're not.
I'll probably get a lift on my F-350.
There you go.
That's when you'll know. But I don't get overly excited.
Yeah.
And I also don't get overly depressed. Even when really bad things happen,
right.
I'm somewhat even-keeled. To the point where it could be unhealthy, like I bottle it up and then finally, like, all right, we're at the funeral, there's the viewing, and then I break down.
Sure.
And I get it out, and then I feel like I'm good. Not saying that's healthy, right? I'm just saying that's what I've prided myself on, because the other side of the coin is, I would think it'd be really cool to feel the feels, right? Like, oh man, just really get in the moment, and like, that is awesome. And also let it out when it's really sad. So I think there's pros and cons to it. But in sales, we find so many people that their emotions are tied to a result. And instead, what I think is healthier for me, maybe not for everybody, is I would rather tie my emotions to the actions that promote growth.
That's really good.
Right?
Yeah.
So, hey, I did this today. I don't know what it's going to result. If I continue to do it, I can't help but think it's going to be positive.
Right.
But I'm going to give myself a pat on the back, because this is what I accomplished today, and it was one step forward
for sure
towards my end goal.
Yep.
And that's what I want to celebrate. And, especially in sales, it's a roller coaster at times, especially if you're not good at it.
It's already super emotional. It's, sales in and of itself is.
Yeah. And you just... To me, it seems like that would be very emotionally taxing to be like way up here.
For sure.
And then way down here. And it's like, all right, we tied it to the result. And if we didn't get the result we wanted this time, then it's disruptive.
Yeah.
What does life look like now that you go home to your wife and kids, and it's like you're not the jovial person because you tied it to the result that hasn't yet happened.
For sure. Yeah.
Instead of the growth opportunity and the actions that you were doing to promote growth.
Absolutely.
What kind of ripple effect does that have?
Yeah, I mean, we talk on the sales team. One of my favorite quotes, and it plays into, more so than just sales. Where obviously we're talking this is higher than sales in of itself. But part of my sales philosophy is this quote, and I forget who it is. Actually, I think it's unknown, believe it or not. But judge each day not by the fruit you reap, but by the seeds you sow. Mm-hmm. And that to me is so important for people in general, because who doesn't love to win, first of all? Like, winning's great. In fact, a question I ask when interviewing people is, do you enjoy winning, or do you love winning or hate losing more? Mm-hmm. Right? It's an interesting question, because it's interesting to hear responses.
And you were an athlete and I was an athlete.
Oh man, I hate to lose. Mm-hmm. And if we're so focused on winning is a byproduct of hard work. Winning is a byproduct of buying into the vision and seeing the vision come forth. Mm-hmm. And so essentially, I guess what I'm boiling that down to is, a lot of times when I see people, or if I'm in a place where I'm, more volatile in my emotions like that, I've lost vision. Mm-hmm. If I'm so focused on the fruit that didn't happen, or maybe some bad fruit, and I'm so focused on that, then I can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because without vision, people perish.
Yeah, it's very similar to finding joy in the journey.
Yeah.
And what that does is promotes success, because if there's joy in the journey instead of the destination, well, eventually you're going, hopefully you never get to the destination. I know that's weird to think too. It's like, if you ever get to the pinnacle, then for me, that's what gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, if I ever got to the max potential that this company or any other company could get to, my anxiety is like, okay, now what's my purpose?
For sure.
You've got to find joy in the journey. And if you do find joy in the journey, it's going to promote success. Actually, I've got a copy of it because I thought this was really good. One of our friends, Jake Frugier, shout out to Jake Frugier. He had shared this, and I wanted to share it with you guys. It's basically 2024 goal setting and how to backcast. Right?
Cool.
So a lot of people, we've talked about it before on here, of how to forecast. And forecasting is all well and good, but backcasting, in my opinion, is more productive and a lot more fun. And the way it looks is, what do I want 5 years from now? What is the big goal? And maybe it's not 5 years, maybe it's 10 years. What is that? And then we reduce it down to the ridiculous. And this does it really well. So let's talk about 2024 goal setting. Start with, first, the someday goal. What's the one thing I want to do someday? Right?
Love that. Yeah.
And it has to be big, audacious, right?
Come on. Yeah.
Something that is outside of expectation. Something is almost outside the realm of what you think is possible.
For sure.
Like, it needs to be massive.
Yep.
Then you go to your 5-year goal. So based on my someday goal, what's the one thing I can do in the next 5 years to get me closer to my someday goal? Then you reduce it down to 1 year. Based on my 5-year goal, what's the one thing I can do this year to move me closer to my 5-year goal?
Love it.
Then it's monthly goal. Based on my 1-year goal, what's the one thing I can do this month? Weekly goal. Based on my monthly goal, what's the one thing I can do this week? Based on my weekly goal, what is the one thing I can do today? And then based on my daily goal, what's the one thing I can do right now?
Yeah, I love that.
And it also helps prioritize, like, what moves the needle, okay? And we've talked about this 18 million times on here, is you have to prioritize. We don't live in an area or in a time for a lack of opportunity.
Sure, yeah.
There's almost too much opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how I'm wired. It's like, every day I distract you. I've got a cool idea. Let me run this by you, right? We just don't. We live in such an abundant world where there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
But we have to, as this helps us do, it helps us prioritize what's going to move the needle.
For sure.
And if we focus most of our time on just the things that move the needle, everything else becomes minutia and should be delegated out.
Sure, yeah.
And that will help you get there faster. So anyways, I thought that was interesting.
Oh, I love that, man. I mean, I think this makes me think about, even before I became involved here, I think a word that I'm thinking about when you're reading and talking through that is belief. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people And this is why I miss not being on discovery calls. And now being in a management position.
Feel the light bulb going off.
Oh man, I mean, you know, basically how we structure these is everybody knows where they're at. Everybody has some understanding of where they are trying to go, but very few people understand how to get from point A to point B. And if we are able to, in a discovery call, understand point A, understand point B, make sure that they're qualified, obviously, and then show them the bridge. If we can show them the bridge, oh my gosh, it's different at that point. You now have belief that, and this is my story. This is for me where I have these entrepreneurial dreams and desire, and it's just like, but man, how? Like I have no clue how to get there, no clue. And the tangibility that this strategy has offered my wife and I. It's really cool to hear that, because it's like, man, I'm thinking 5-10 years into the future now, and I wake up every day thinking that way. And I am a person of vision, but before I just didn't have the belief, I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the bridge.
Right.
And I mean, to be able to offer that to people is entirely rewarding.
I think another thing is it's rewarding too, and I know this almost sounds like I'm trying to be humble about it, but it's not that we shouldn't take credit for what we do, because we've helped thousands of people out. But the other credit should be the people that actually took action and executed.
Oh man.
You know, because again, it's an abundant world, and we have this shiny object syndrome, and it's there's this whole environment of people that go to this self-help event, and then they go to this event, and then they buy this book,
for sure,
and then they get a part of this program and all that, but
and don't complete the programs, don't read all the books.
They don't execute.
Right.
It's almost like they just got addicted to being around those people.
Sure.
Instead of becoming their own version of those people.
Preach. Come on.
And really, 2024 needs to be about, let's just freaking execute.
Yep.
You know, let's stop talking about it.
it.
Let's say, instead of someday I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to this mastermind event, and I'm going to take notes and listen to it, and I'm going to get pumped up, but 3 or 4 days after I get home, it's forgotten about.
For sure.
2024 just needs to be about, just get shit done.
Yeah,
let's execute.
Let's go.
Right?
Yep.
And we have met thousands of families that's what they did.
Yeah.
They didn't ask too many questions. I won't say they didn't ask any questions. But we said, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and this is when you do it, and they did it. To me, that deserves a lot of credit. We showed them the door, but it takes a heck of a lot of faith and trust and bravery.
Sure does. Yeah.
To walk through the door.
Absolutely.
On your own.
Yep.
And so, to me, I think that deserves more credit than what we're doing. We're just showing you the door, and some people are just walking up to it and kicking that bastard in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, you make decisions based off of where you are, where you want to go.
Yep. Last topic I want to talk about, because we've been going for a while. How long have we been going, Ren? A while. That's not an exact time, but it's been a while. Southern border. You got this interesting thing going on with Texas and the federal government, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's got the writings on the wall of, oh my goodness, is this 1864 all over again?
No joke.
Am I going to? It's on the cusp of what's coming out in a couple months. Is this movie called Civil War?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, you haven't seen the trailer?
No.
Oh, dude.
I don't think so.
All right.
Interesting.
I'm going to show you the trailer.
This is right down my alley.
Yeah. And Ren, I'll get you the link to this so that people watching this can watch the trailer too.
Yeah, this is the stuff that's always like, all right, is there? I'm probably 30-40% conspiracy theorist, you know, but then it's like, how much of this stuff is scripted? It's like, that's so weird.
At some point, your logic takes over, and you're like, all right, I moved from conspiracy theorist to
right.
All right, now it went from 30 to now I'm at 60%, and yeah,
that's kind of how I am with the NFL.
So
right
check
now.
out this trailer. So it's your first time seeing that?
Yes, and when I tell you I have all the chills right now, dude, that is like unnerving.
You're definitely going to watch it, ain't you?
100%. I think the thing that stood out the most is she said that one chick in the store, what we just saw on the news, and we just feel like it's for the best.
Just stick our head in the sand. Yeah.
If that don't,
So, you see what's going on in Texas.
Yep.
And then you've got stuff like
Texas.
this.
You got Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This going on. You're like, oh my goodness. One, is it scripted? In this, or is this like a telltale sign that this is what's going to happen, or is this just like a warning? Like this is what could happen. To me, because it's constant division.
Right.
You're either right or left, conservative or liberal. You're either white or black. It's constant division. Rich or poor. It's like we've got to constantly segment people and segregate them and put them in their own camps, right?
Sure.
And I swear that's the agenda, is constant division. Because one thing that was me was where the guy was like holding the gun, the Tony Stark sunglasses on. He's probably colorblind though. He probably was wearing chroma glasses.
Yeah.
Shout out to all my colorblind folks out there. Is okay. Well, what kind of American are you?
Yeah, that.
I mean, now it's not good enough just to be American. It's like, what kind of an American are you? And I know that's not reality. This is a movie.
Right.
But, after watching that now, you kind of see the perspective of what's going on in Texas in a different light.
Sure. Yeah.
Where Texas is taking things in their own hands. And like, dude, what is it, 8 million people now?
That's what they say. But and to give context, we're talking about the federal government passing the bill or whatever to remove all the razor wire on the borders, right?
Shelby Park,
and so, but yeah, I saw a report that they think that about over 8 million legal immigrants have poured into our country. And obviously it's like removing. It's going to be however many more. I mean, you talk about. I mean, it's just it's crazy. But yeah, Texas saying we're not doing that.
Yeah. It went against basically the Fed and the higher government and said, no, this is our state. We are protecting our state. And I think they actually doubled up the razor wire instead. I think Ted Cruz,
really?
Yeah, I think Ted Cruz had mentioned that last night.
Yeah.
That not only are we not taking it down, we're putting more up.
Right.
So it's interesting, and then as far as the Texas situation, and you're talking about gun owners. And it's what the Japanese said back in the 40s, that we cannot contemplate invading mainland America. And I think the phrase goes is that because behind every blade of grass is a gun. It's one of the things that protects us. Not only our natural borders as far as, sea on the left, sea on the right, or west and east, somewhat of an ally to the north.
Right.
That's yet to be seen. I mean, what would happen to Canada if we didn't exist, though?
Oh, my gosh.
They would be speaking German right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Everybody would, for that matter.
Yeah.
But yes, our Second Amendment, and I hate the argument of, because Biden was even on camera talking about this. It's like, what are you going to, you don't have F-15s.
Right.
What the hell does that mean?
Right. No joke. Yeah.
Maybe we don't have F-18s and F-15s, but maybe we should.
Right.
I think the purpose of the Second Amendment, which it's on my office wall right behind me, right behind my desk, it's not for us to hunt with.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the argument is, well, who needs an AR-15 to hunt? But that's not what the Second Amendment is about, and that's what they're twisting the Second Amendment to be. It's like, that's the only reason why our founding fathers were providing you with guns is for hunting. No.
Ridiculous.
No.
Yeah, not at all.
The main reason, and if not the only reason for the Second Amendment, is to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government because we had to at one point.
Yeah.
That's why it's in there. And at some point, God forbid, I hope it's not my lifetime, and I definitely hope it's not my kid's lifetime, but at the fast track we're on, I have a feeling that's the case. And it maybe not just immediately defending against our own tyrannical government, because we've lost this understanding that people in government are there because they represent us. And I'm almost getting to the point where I hate even calling them representatives. It's just you're a member of Congress. Right. Because you're not representing anybody but your own self-interest.
Totally. Yeah.
For the most part, on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And we've lost that's what that is meant. That's what their purpose there is for, is to represent us. We are in charge.
Right.
Not the president.
Correct.
Not Congress, not Senate,
Yep.
not the Supreme Court.
Yep.
We are in charge.
Yep.
And if you're not getting the job done, you need to be fired.
You got to go?
Yeah, you do. And yeah, and here's the other thing I was going to get at, and we'll end with this, is there's a video of a gentleman that has now been named that crossed the border, and it was very alarming. The reason why the video went viral is because he says, you don't know who I am, but this country will soon know who I am. And it was weird, the tone that he had and all that was real eerie.
Yeah.
And now they've identified him, and I don't know what his name is. It's
not English.
I can see it in my head, but there ain't no way I'm going to try to pronounce it. Yeah. But he's part of or chairman of the
Azerbaijan.
I can't even say that. I got to get the redneckedness out of my vocabulary. But Islamic Party. Right. And he was sentenced to prison for 12 years.
Yeah.
He just got out last year.
Right.
And now we find him on our southern border infiltrating our country. And part of the Kerry Lake audio, leaked audio, was they were also talking about the cartel because she's like, they're going to try to have me murdered. And they were then the conversation immediately went to the cartels. Like, the cartel's in all 50 states.
Yeah, operating in all 50 states.
Yeah, they're operating in all 50 states, and they can just reach out and touch somebody if they need to. And here we are. We got some people who's like, no, let them come in. It's compassion. Ironically, you got governors of Colorado, Illinois, New York, like, we got to address the southern border issue because what is Abbott doing? He's like, okay, they're going to come here. We're going to bust them up to New York and Illinois and Colorado.
Yeah.
And let's see how you really like it.
Yeah.
See, you didn't mind it when it wasn't your problem. But now that it's becoming your problem,
totally.
Now you have a difference of opinion.
Right.
You think maybe we should have a closed border. But again, the whole Texas thing, it should be closely watched. And I don't think tensions will rise enough to ever come to that. But again, we just live in interesting times.
Very interesting.
We didn't know that there was going to be vaccine mandates. And I'm not going to lie, my wife's very crunchy, right?
Yeah.
And we try to do things holistically. There's a time and place for traditional medicine and all that. Yeah. But for me personally, I can tell you why I didn't take the vaccine. It's because of my attitude.
Because they're telling you to do it. Exactly.
All right, you told me to. I'm not going to do it just because I'm an asshole like that, right? Yeah. If you tell me I have to do something as an American citizen, I should have the right to be like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that was my main reason.
Well,
luckily I had that attitude because, as we know, we've had health issues when I was in college as far as heart issues, carditis, and all that. So, I'm glad I was somewhat hard-headed there. But, I just have a lot of faith that there's more people like us in this country than the other people that are willing to just stick their head in the sand and ignore it and allow things to happen.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of Americans, but fewer and fewer patriots. And I think that's what they're trying to do is they're trying to whittle down the patriot heart so that when the time comes, they can say, give us your guns.
Yeah.
And
we also have fewer and fewer men. And what I mean by men, masculine men.
Yes.
Because now that's trendy. Masculine toxicity.
Yeah.
Or toxic masculinity.
Yes. I knew what you were saying. Yeah.
When did it ever become toxic
for sure
to be a man, right?
Yep.
And we're just breeding a generation of weak men.
Emasculated.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. In the SF community, I was listening to Sean Ryan, and actually this guy somewhat was talking about it too. The recruitment is so low in our SF community. And it's like, we rely on them so heavily that if we need to infiltrate a country, that's who we send in first. Or we need to get hostages out of something, that's who we send in first. Because the recruitment is low because we are producing weaker and weaker men. And weak men produce hard times.
Yes, they do.
Hard times produce strong men. Mm-hmm. Strong men produce good times.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the weaker we get as men, the harder the times that we'll see in the near future. Cool. Thanks for being on the podcast,
Absolutely,
Cody.
man. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.